Okay, let's see. We're going to do a video on this 2007 Volvo XC70 cross country. What we're going to do is the main motor mounts, the front and rear. I have not seen a video on this anywhere on YouTube, and so I'm going to attempt to do a really, well, poor video because I am not a YouTuber. I'm just a guy that does this on the side. I like working on Volvos. I have several, but this is my favorite one of all of that I have. So it's going to be kind of choppy. I'm not going to do a lot of talking per se, and we'll try and get through it as best I can, but here we go. All right, what am I going to be doing first is the rear motor mount. I'll have to make some corrections as I go along. I haven't seen, let me clarify, I haven't seen a video on an XC70 all-wheel drive cross-country motor mounts being replaced. I've seen a lot of other videos, but not this particular version. So what I'm going to work on is getting to that motor mount. It looks decent. The reason I'm doing this is I'm getting a lot of vibration, and I want to see if I can eliminate some vibration in my engine. So I'm having a feeling that these guys are getting hard and they're translating a lot of vibration into the frame. Even though they look, if I can get lined up on that, if they look good, they may not be, because they're 15 years old. All right. The first real operation I'm going to do is just take the crossbar off. I've already removed the splash guard. I live out in the country, so we get mice that like to move into my house. my house. Yeah, they move into my house too. But they move into the top of the engine compartment at night, and I had a big clump of goo on there. It turned out to be bacon grease. I'd poured out some bacon grease a while back, and the mice had all collected it all, and they decided to bring it into the engine. It was kind of weird. That's just a weird side note. Okay, now let's see. Get this thing. So I've removed the torsion bar, and oh my gosh, getting kind of old for this kind of work. I'm not a young man, by the way. So there's your top bolt. If it'll focus in on that. Yeah, anyway, it's right down there. I don't know if I can get my eyeballs to focus in on it. So, good night. Let's see. You've got this heater hose right here that's in my way, and there it goes. But yeah, I'm gonna that'll be my first bolt to remove on this rear motor mount, and then we'll go underneath and get to the bottom one, lift the engine up. I got the torque mount that needs to be removed. Other than that, it should be pretty simple. We'll see what happens. So I had to switch to a 15 deep socket because the 15 shallow was not getting onto the nut well enough, so I had to switch over to this setup instead. Okay, now that I've got the nut loose, I'm going to use my magnet to pull it out of the hole. Here we go. All right, now we're doing some fun stuff. I ended up taking this plate off. It went right up underneath here. Took that off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this exhaust hanger, move this bracket out of the way. Gives me a little bit. Yeah. No, I do not live on a racetrack, just a busy road. This nut up here is challenging. This is probably why I've never seen a video of anybody actually taking this off, because it is a real pain to get to. The actual nut is right there, right in the center. And of course you got the torsion bar blocking your access to a straight line. Even with a swivel, it makes it a little challenging to get to. So what I'm going to attempt to do is remove this section so I can kind of get into it at a different angle and see what works, if that works better, or if I'm just going deeper into this than I want to, because I really don't want to have to loosen up the torsion bar just to get to that nut. But you know, if that's the case, that's the case. We'll just have to see what happens. Well, that was fun. So I got this bracket out. It's the exhaust hanger for the catalytic converter. There's 2 bolts on the back side here, if I can, you know, the idea. But there's one bolt that decided that Volvo, in their infinite wisdom, decided to put it right between the steering rack and this cross member. And what I ended up doing was loosening, or taking the nuts off of that side and loosening up this side, and just lifting this up just ever so, and just enough to get the nut out, or the bolt out. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to cut a notch in this right here, so that when I go to put it back on, I just can slide it in and not have to mess with the steering rack. We'll see how that works. All right, so I got my Mickey Mouse jack up here where I got the engine lifted up. I am still working at getting the bottom nut off of the rear motor mount. It is in such a horrible position. What I've come to work on putting together is this swivel. It's 2 swivels actually. They put some tape around it, the electrical tape, to keep it from wiggling around too much, but we're going to try that. I have ended up, let's crawl under here. I do this old school on the ground, like a lot of you guys do, I'm sure. So I have lifted up the rack just ever so slightly, but I'm still having, this guy is just in the way. And if I cannot get that nut with this little swivel, I'm going to end up taking off this bracket here, which is the support for the left side sway bar, and lifting that up enough to get in between there, because oh my gosh, it's just a pain. But anyway, I got it off I got the heat shield off the top of the top. I can't. I'm doing this with my phone, so you know, nothing is professional here. But I got the heat shield off the motor mount. There's plenty of space there. Just got to get that nut off the bottom of that motor mount, and I can pull that out of there, and that'll be that. This has been quite a challenge. If you're into challenges, this is definitely the job for you. If you hate frustration, yeah, probably not going to be something you want to do, because I have been very frustrated. Been at this about an hour and a half so far, and it's been quite a challenge. But yeah, you can see I got this one disconnected, engine's up. Everything looks pretty good underneath there. This car has 165,000 miles on it. I've done a buttload of work on this thing. It is a wonderful car to drive, but can be a bit of a nightmare. Well, I don't say nightmare. It requires a lot of maintenance. It's a European luxury car, so that should say it all right there. Well, look at that. Good old Craftsman tool. That's why I don't buy Craftsman. Okay. Finally got it out of there. Holy smokes. Here's what I ended up doing. Got a short ratchet, or short socket wrench. I can't even talk. Extension, short. Stuck it into the 13 millimeter swivel. I got a little snap-on impact swivel that I got up in here. Right now it's just kind of lodged in there against the oh, I can't even talk. I'm out of breath. Sway bar, excuse me, sway bar. What I did, instead of having to undo that bracket back there, is I just took I have a nice long extension bar here, a breaker bar, pushed it in there, put some tension on it, pulled it back ever so slightly so that I could line it up and get in there and take that nut off. And that did the job. I'm going to leave that right there for now. Let's crawl back out. I got the motor mount sitting on the cart right now. Oh my goodness sakes, I'm too fat and old for this. Oh, seriously, I don't even want to see. Okay, here's your old motor mount. As you can see, it's got some cracking in it. I wouldn't say I've seen so much worse than that, but like I say, I'm getting some vibration coming through, especially when it's idling. Here's my nice brand new motor mount, so we'll slip that on and go from there. But yeah, definitely the rear is a lot more challenging than the front. Probably why I never see anybody do a video on the back one, because my gosh, there's a lot more stuff in the way, and it is definitely a lot more challenging. Yeah, so I've gone through and I've replaced the upper one, the right motor mount, the torque motor mount, and have just been these two front and rear ones have been my last challenge. I do this on my weekends, which is fun because I work about 60 hours a week anyway, and so I don't feel like doing a lot of work on my weekend. But here we are. And of course, it's starting to rain here in the Pacific Northwest, and nothing unusual about that. So I'm working on the front one now. I took off this intake right here that goes to the bottom of the intake manifold. That's on the cold side of the intercooler. So got that out of the way because I was having a hard time getting to that top bolt. The bottom bolt's a piece of cake, easy to get to, but getting to the top one, I've had enough challenge for today, so that was easy to remove out of the way. And I got the other motor mount back in there, the back one, excuse me. Got the top bolted down. I haven't bolted down the bottom yet. I figured I would get the front one in place and then drop the engine down and bolt them on and start putting everything back together. So yeah, it's starting to, I'm seeing daylight here. Maybe not in the sky, because if you look up, it's nothing but clouds. Yeah, it's just another rainy day here in Oregon. So, okay, got the front motor mount out, and it doesn't look too bad down there. I'll probably dust it up a little bit. Definitely have to bolt the back one in order to get the engine to rock forward enough to pull that front one out. So I had to go back there and tighten that back one in. It was a lot easier getting it tightened now that I know what I'm doing as opposed to last time. I'll go and recap things over when I finish this off, but got the front motor mount off, this front one. Yeah, it's not as bad. I was thinking it was going to be much worse, but there's definitely some checks in there in the rubber. Rubber's getting hard. Probably why a lot of vibration was translating into the frame. You know, I'm not saying there was a lot of vibration, but it's more than I care for. I like to have my car running smooth and feeling good. I've gotten kind of soft in my older age, but got the new motor mount here. I'm going to go ahead and put that in, and yeah, it definitely want to put it in from the top, I wasn't able to figure out how to get it out through the bottom, so we went through the top. And yeah, as you can see, I have done the PCV system. Oh, probably, I don't know, a year and a half ago. So that system, that was a lot of fun. I didn't video that, but there's plenty of videos on how to do that out there. Just replaced this fuel pressure sensor that just went out on me, but that was no big deal. That was like a 5-minute job. So anyway, I'm gonna go in here and start it up, see how it sounds here. Oh goodness. That is much improved. Let me shut the door here. Usually when the engine is cold, I have a pretty significant vibration coming from the engine into the transmission. I mean, so much that the steering wheel actually vibrates a little bit. And that's, I bet, primarily because the rear motor mount is attached to the steering rack, and I wasn't aware of that until I really got into it, and I realized that the rack is the support for the engine mount on the bottom. So yeah, if that motor mount is bad, it's going to translate a lot of vibration right into the steering wheel. But yeah, it feels so much better now. I'm gonna finish off and clean that skid plate up and put that on and take this for a drive and see how it goes, and put my tools away before they get soaking wet because it is starting to rain. So I just got back from taking it for a road test, and it did very well. It's a lot less vibration coming through the steering wheel, and just overall much smoother ride, and it just feels better, a lot better. The steering is a little off, but that was to be expected since I did loosen up the steering rack and lift it up and move it a little bit. So that is going to have to go in for, I'll have to go in for an alignment to correct that, but because it's off a degree or two. But I expected that was going to happen. But yeah, overall I'm very happy about what I did, and that the motor mounts, at first I thought it's not going to make much of a difference because they didn't look that bad. But now that I've got the new ones in, and they feel so much better, probably the new motor mounts are not as hard as the old ones. I mean, we're talking, this car's 15 years old and 165,000 miles. So it's rubber hardens up. So that's what happened, I think. And I'm happy that I replaced those parts. I tend to get a lot of my parts through a company called IPD. They're kind of based out of here in Portland, Oregon, and they're really close to me, and they've serviced me well. But if you are looking for Volvo parts, they're a really good place to go. Well, I'm going to put together a quick little montage of what I what I used as tools on this project. Just kind of a background for me. I've been dabbling in automotive mechanics for since I was a teenager. I'm in my 50s now, and I used to be a professional. When I was in my 20s, I worked at a few shops, and found that I really didn't care to do it as a profession. I like doing it on my own schedule and in my own time. And but I've stayed with it. I'm not as up to date with a lot of the new technology. When it comes to computers, I tend to punt and let somebody else that knows what they're doing handle that. But when it comes to a lot of mechanical things, I can pretty much manage. I've kept a lot of the old tools that I used to use. This particular job, I would rate as a little above average for skill level, just because it takes some special tools to
especially to get into that back bolt on the bottom of that rear mount. It took me a while to figure that one out. I've been at this about 5 hours. I mean, it doesn't seem like that long, but now, you know, I went in the house to wash my hands and looked at the clock and was like, oh my goodness, I've been at this 5 hours. But I'm not racing either. I don't have a lift. I'm doing this all on the ground. If I had a nice shop and everything, I could do it a lot quicker. And it's always takes longer to do a new project that you've never done before. So I always like to give myself a little bit of grace on that. But anyway, if you are watching this and enjoy it, I hope you find some use out of it. Like I say, I couldn't find anybody that had posted a video on replacing the rear mount on this car. So I thought I'd throw that together. I didn't do a lot of videoing on the process because it's just takes too many hands and it's hard to hold the camera and video at the same time. So that's why it's just kind of jumping back and forth. And like I say again, this is my first attempt at a YouTube video, so it's probably really poor quality. I'm not an actor. I'm very, it's challenging for me to speak. I've had to deal with some stuttering in the past, but I'm doing better now. But that's beside the point. So I'm not. If you're watching this and you're finding some use out of it, great. That's awesome. I probably won't be doing a lot of these, so don't worry about following me if that's what you're worried. If you're thinking, because there might do one or two more. Who knows? So anyway, I'll leave it at that. And like I say, I'm going to show some of the tools that I used in this job.
Okay, here we got the tools that I used on this project. Things that are probably most useful, especially when it came to taking that exhaust hanger off, was that dude. Haven't used that very often, but boy, that thing comes in handy when you need it. So swivel sockets, very important. Deep sockets, some shallow ones. These are my 1/4 inch socket set, all metric. Everything's metric here. Some good metric wrenches and different assortment of ratchets. I use this big guy for taking the top support bar off, and this very important tool for that actually. But when I finally figured out how to get that bottom screw off of that one motor mount that was down here, I had to use that breaker bar just to push that sway bar out just enough to where I could get this long extension in there and get that stinker out of there. that really frustrated me. I probably spent an hour fiddling around with that, but that's kind of what I've got. There's probably a little bit here and there that I don't have on the selection, but overall that's a good that'll get you there. I hope if you end up doing this job that you're more successful at it than I am as far as time wise, and you don't cut your hands as much as I did. So all right, have a good one.